Hey friends, I hope you're doing well. If you already know me, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, my name is still Alexander. I'm a web developer by day. During the night, I'm an open source developer on a mission to build helpful tools to help people in their learning journeys. Let's head on over here to Twitter, where there's a tweet that caught my attention. So Rizel Scarlett wrote on the 7th September, "It's finally my first day at GitHub. I spent the month of August exploring open source and encouraging others to do that same." Really cool. That's cool, Rizel. Read about why I was initially nervous to contribute to open source and how I overcame that fear. So let's check out this post. Conquering the fear of contributing to open source. I almost let imposter syndrome stop me from contributing to open source. Afraid of contributing to open source. Nope. And then that's a funny picture. I think this is the picture that when I saw this on Twitter, it caught my attention. Nope. So why I was scared to contribute. I've been a developer for approximately 3 years, but last month, August 2021, was my first time contributing to open source. Congratulations. It's not because I didn't want to. I was interested in contributing and I was aware of the benefits listed below. Expanding my developer community. Yeah, that's definitely a bonus of open source. You get to know other developers and interact with them. Strengthening my skills as a developer and diving into new technologies. Definitely. You can level up so much. You actually get to work with problems and you have to solve them, at least if you want your contribution accepted to the project usually. Increasing my job prospects. I've contributed to open source and I still do, and I get contacted by recruiters frequently on a frequent basis. So definitely, if you're looking to remain attractive for future employers, open source is one way. It's not the only way, but it's a really good way in my opinion, if you want some options. Honestly, I was scared to contribute to open source. Perhaps scared is too strong of an adjective, but I felt frustrated, intimidated, and anxious every time I tried to explore the open source space. That feels bad. I made multiple attempts throughout the years. As advised, I clone repositories that I found via firsttimersonly.com. I don't think I've visited this. Let's check this out. What's this website? First timers only. Friendly open source projects should reserve specific issues for... I think I might have seen this before. I'm not sure. So basically, issues reserved for beginners, right? That's cool. That's a good initiative. I like that. We'll have a link to that in the description. Then analysis paralysis would set in. Oh yeah, this is not uncommon. Which repository should I contribute to? I cloned 7 different repositories. So to answer that question, which one? It doesn't really matter. Usually you should pick one that interests you. Try to pick one which you're already using tooling for or language within. So it's related to your skill set. Like if you know C#, you should contribute to C# projects, in my opinion. Or if you're interested in documentation, maybe you can contribute documentation to any language or any project. It doesn't matter. But I would try to have a relationship with the project, either as a user or you think the project is really cool and you want to contribute. Because then it's easier to remain focused, and that's a key word. You want to remain focused. You shouldn't cloning 7 different repositories. In my opinion, that's kind of silly. You should pick one and then just go through the whole process, because usually a project has a contributing guidelines. We can look at an example later. Which issue should I pick up? That depends on your skill level, right? So ideally, you should pick something you're interested in. Let's say you're using a project and there's a bug in there. That's a example. Or maybe you find some typos in the documentation. I found those valuable. Let's see. What is this issue even asking? If an issue is confusing, I would definitely try to ask questions, right? Ask for clarification if somebody reported that issue, right? How exactly do I assign myself the ticket? That's interesting. You could ask, one thing you could do is ask, is somebody working on this? Is this project even still maintained? That's something, these questions, you can actually figure those out. You can look at the activity of the project or in the README, or you could just shoot a message to the maintainer and ask them kindly. And also clarify if contributions are welcome, if they don't have contributing guidelines. Some projects are fairly early, right? They don't have that, or maybe they just haven't gotten around to creating guidelines for new contributors. What if the community is discouraging? I don't know. I don't think I've seen any communities being discouraging. Have I? No. I've seen communities wanting to make sure you communicate doing changes so that people can avoid doing double work, right? So if you start working on issues without telling the community, then somebody else in the community might start working on the same thing as you do, right? And in order to avoid wasting people's time, it's better to engage with the community and tell them, hey, I find this issue interesting. I would like to tackle this, and I think I have enough expertise, for example, in order to do that because I've done something similar before, something like that. And then the community knows, okay, yeah. And then maybe somebody else chimes in and say, I was actually planning on doing that. Maybe we can work together. And then suddenly you're collaborating with somebody else in order to solve a specific problem, right? And that's cool, right? The magic of open source collaboration part. Would they laugh at my pull request? This is a fair question, but I think it's kind of silly too. Like, people are not out there to be mean, right? Of course, anybody could have a bad day and accidentally do something or say something wrong, say something that affects somebody else negatively. But I don't think people are going out of their way to be mean in open source. At least I haven't experienced that. You do have rants and you do have people getting pissed off sometimes, but that's normal. I also get pissed off sometimes when I look at contributions from other people and then I see, come on, man, what is this crap, right? But of course, I guess that's something I can improve on, right, as a maintainer. I had worked with a few discouraging engineers in the past and I wasn't interested in extracurricular roast sessions. Yeah, I get this. This is like, it can get out of hand, right? Sometimes, like, at least for me personally, I think one thing I do, which kind of sucks, is like sometimes I give unsolicited feedback. Like, I totally am a fan of continuous improvement, like improving yourself all of the time. So if somebody gives me constructive feedback, I too try to take that to heart and address it. And sometimes I give people feedback without them actually asking me for feedback, and that can be taken the wrong way, right? So I definitely recognize this roasting thing. Sometimes it could happen unintentionally. Is this documentation outdated? Oh, that one, oof. You can end up reading. That's a good question to keep in mind when you're going through projects. Is this project underdocumented? Most likely the answer is yes, because maintainers usually don't have time to document. Like, there are exceptions. If you look at the Vue.js project, amazing. Evan Vue has done a really great job with the documentation there. Why can't I push my branch to the repository? You can't. That's actually a good question if you don't know permissions, right? But like, you're not really supposed to be able to push this is more Git basics. It's not necessarily related to the contributing part. This is just access management, ACL stuff in Git, right? But it's a fair question to ask. But I think that would be covered, right? If you learn about Git and how that works, you would see why you wouldn't need that kind of access. Because the process of open source is like creating a fork from somebody's project and then doing your changes on your local copy, that is, or your remote, right? And then making a pull request back to the upstream project, right? Like a river. You want to flow upstream. How do I talk to a member of this project's community to learn more? Open source projects usually have some form of documentation. It can be that the maintainer has done a really bad job and they don't even have a README file. That's possible. Then I would try to figure out if there's a way to, is there an email address you could reach out the maintainer, and if the maintainer has a way to reach out to them, it could be via IRC, Discord, or whatever, right? And then you just try to reach out to them. That's one way. Everyone seems to know each other in this Discord. I feel too shy to jump into the conversations. Oh, yeah, that's not a question, but that is actually a challenge, right? Some people, they see me and they don't think I'm shy at all, but I am shy too. I keep for myself and I don't usually want to engage that much with people. So I definitely get this, and you just have to overcome it, right? You have to be focused on what your goal is. You want to contribute more, and then you just have to challenge yourself. So how do you get over being shy in Discord? Challenge your limits. Just do it. There's no other way. It's going to be uncomfortable in the beginning, and then it's going to be less uncomfortable over time. But it's going to still be uncomfortable. At least for me, that's the case. I would spiral through these questions until a few hours passed. Then I would finally give up. I had other priorities like my full-time job. Yeah, this is definitely one thing that's preventing more people from contributing to open source, right? Full-time jobs. I know a few developers who would love to contribute to open source, but balancing being either a parent or family, friends, and then a full-time job, and then trying to be able to live a healthy lifestyle with exercise and so on, it's a challenge. I decided that if the process was this confusing and this overwhelming, it wasn't worth it to code for free. This is a fair argument. I wouldn't go as far as to say that personally. For me, I find it really valuable knowing that some kid in the UK is getting a lot of value from one of my open source projects, right? Or some random person becoming a doctor in Australia, or right? I've saved that person X number of hours, and they're able to create a workflow that wasn't easy or maybe even impossible before, right? That like, it's not, yeah, that for me feels like I'm already getting rewarded, right? Knowing that I helped somebody out there feels good, right? Then I had my interview for GitHub to be a junior developer advocate. They listed a few possible topics for my technical presentation. Based on the list, I figured I could use this as an opportunity to contribute to open source for the first time and do a technical presentation about the experience. Unfortunately, I spiral again. You have to get out of these spirals. Get into some good spirals, not bad ones. My presentation evolved into a pitch about how GitHub can improve the inclusion issues within open source by incentivizing maintainers to update documentation and foster welcome commits. Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. Nice pivot. My first experience contributing to open source. After I landed the job, my manager, Brian Douglas, encouraged me to contribute to his project, opensourced. He offered to help me if I got stuck. Coincidentally, I had explored the repo a few months back and even joined the opensourced Discord, but I never contributed. This time was different because I felt secure in his support. I was able to look at the project from a new perspective. I quickly picked up a ticket to add a drop-down component in React to display the logged-in user's name, the version information, and a logout option. I included the CSS rules for dark mode. I also added a component to Storybook by following the pattern that already existed in the project. Yeah, nice. That's very nice. That's one thing. If you guys are contributing to open source, make sure to look at the project. What's the existing structure, and follow that. Don't try to invent your own or rewrite all of the code at once. That's a yikes. When I see pull requests that change 100 things at a time, I just feel like, come on, this guy or this person has taken this too far, right? Make one small contribution at a time. If you're going to do huge changes, you need to coordinate that stuff. To my surprise, the open source community embraced me. They expressed excitement about my pull request, and they made a few suggestions to promote accessibility and testing. After making the necessary updates, the maintainers quickly released my code into production. Nice. That's a quick win. I'm glad she got her change out. Feels good. The process. After I cloned and forked the open source repo, I explored the code base a bit to gain a general understanding of how things worked. I looked at past pull requests to determine what the team was working on, how the team formatted their pull requests, the team's communication style. I read through the GitHub issues and identified an issue that I thought was achievable for me. Here's the issue on the top right bar. That's where a user menu style pop under is generally used concurrently. The real problem is no hover over the button, right? We're not going to read all of it, but basically somebody's describing the problem, bullet points, right? After some tinkering, I wrote a possible solution, crossed my fingers, and put up a pull request, right? Nice. And then, oh, this is nice. So not only does this person have several commits, but they also have a good description here. I'm just eyeballing it, not reading it. It fixes the issue referencing, right? Even has a video recording. Ooh, nice. And screenshots. Amazing. Love this. What GIF best describes this PR? Boom, drop. Nice. I think this is specific to their project. That's cool. I like that. So here you can see the code she wrote. Good, right? And the feature here in action, right? So it's basically a context menu on the right-hand side. You guys probably can't see it because it's too small. After a few hours, the maintainers and other members of the open source community responded with kind, yet constructive and easy to follow feedback. Oh, so there were actually changes requested, right? This is cool. Like the person requesting the changes gave them some good feedback, and here's some things to check out, right? And that's probably the issues they found while testing. It was such a smooth ordeal that I regret not contributing earlier, gaining support from the maintainers and feeling embraced by the community. Oh, community empowered me. That's nice. I'm glad she had that positive experience. The mistakes I made. In retrospect, I realized that despite my valid concerns regarding inclusivity, hostile communication, and up-to-date documentation, I made some initial mistakes that hindered my journey into open source. Mistake number 1. Very cool. She's admitting or reflecting. This is one cool thing to do, like reflect so you can learn and then move on. I didn't thoroughly read the documentation. That's something I do all the time. Eyeballing. I call it eyeballing. Just like I'm not even skimming. I'm just looking at the lines and then looking away. I usually skim the documentation to learn how to install dependencies and how to run the app. Yeah, that's not a good idea. You should generally read it. However, I never paid attention to the instructions that stated I had to fork the repository after cloning it, nor did I pay attention to the instructions on how to assign an issue to me. Finding up-to-date documentation and reading through it thoroughly helped me to actually get the job done. Nice. So paying attention to the instructions pays off. Mistake number 2. I let past experiences cloud my judgment. I have worked with people who often destructively criticize my code and my intelligence. Oh, that feels bad. Additionally, I read multiple horror stories and complaints about the hostility in open source. We're not going to look into that, but yeah, anyone can have a bad experience. The thought of repeating past situations made me guarded and nervous. Oh, that's sad. Nevertheless, this experience has been a valuable reminder that the past isn't always a predictor of the future. Cool. Mistake number 3. I underestimated my skill set due to work trauma and tons imposter syndrome. I've always felt like I couldn't code despite completing a coding bootcamp, earning my bachelor's degree in computer science, shipping various features, and working as a software engineer for a few years. I felt underqualified for open source. Fortunately, I regained some of my self-confidence through teaching at G-Code and working at Botany. The team at Botany prioritized pair programming. Oh, that's cool. I would love to do more pair programming. Providing constructive feedback and providing deserved praise. Nice. Regaining some of my confidence helped me to feel confident enough to contribute to open source this time. That's cool. Mistake number 4. I didn't ask for help. Yeah, this is something I do all the time. Like, I'm starting to get better at it now. I ask for more help now, but I used to be terrible at this, like trying to figure it out on my own for too long. It's much better to ask for help early. Even if you get stuck on a problem for 15 minutes, guys, come on, you should ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that. Most importantly, I never asked anyone for help. I tried to reach out a few times, but quickly gave up. For example, I once attempted to direct message a maintainer on Discord. Then I received an error message that I couldn't direct message them because we haven't added each other as friends. So I abandoned the pursuit. You shouldn't have abandoned. You should have just either added them in the public Discord or tried to send a friend request. There's nothing wrong with that. There were more channels and people I could have reached out to, but I didn't leverage my network. Yeah. This time when I reached out to community members, I gained a clear understanding of navigating the documentation, what issues I should tackle, and I gained a sense of belonging. Nice. Don't be afraid to contribute to open source projects and don't make the same silly mistakes I made. Contributing to open source truly is a great way to befriend more developers, strengthen your coding skills, and increase your confidence. Nice. What's holding you back from making your first contribution, right? And people have commented below. So this was a great post from Rizel, Scarlett, Black Girl Bites. I'll add the links in the description. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Regardless, I appreciate your support. If you want to join me live, head on over to Twitch and I'll see you there.